Hello and welcome to, I'm going to call it a match reaction because, I didn't do one last night. I thought it'd be easier just to talk with a couple of friends, a couple of massive Fulham fans. It's been a dramatic last 18 or so hours. I'm joined, of course, by Joe Sansom. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Hopefully my internet's all right, guys.
Well, hopefully it stands strong. And I'm joined by Liam Ventum as well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thanks for having me on. Wish you could have had me better on in better circumstances, but that's the way it goes.
It's going to be a tough one, honestly. We normally talk for 10 to 15 minutes about the game and the upcoming, but so much has happened in the last few hours, the last 12, 18 hours, that we've lost to Aston Villa 3-0, and it wasn't good at all. Don't know where to begin with that. Liam, let's just briefly talk about the game. To concede after 3 minutes against Villa, to concede after 4 minutes against Leeds, to concede after 8 minutes against Arsenal. What's happening, man?
It's just all optimisms for the start of the fans have at the start of the game just goes instantly. I mean, we shoot ourselves in the foot straight away. Our defence there's not really anything you can say. It's literally awful. Like I think the five at the back last night was just, for me, it was a terrible decision. As soon as I saw the lineup, I was like, we're just going to get completely run over in the midfield. And they're basically putting more pressure, more scrutiny on our already weak defence. There's no confidence whatsoever. There's no leader. There's no semblance of a plan defensively. We were just all over the place. And as soon as the first goal went in, I just, for me, just hoping the floodgates wouldn't open, but they obviously did. So it was very disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Grealish, it's a nice run. It's a good ball over the top from McGinn. But Joe, Dennis Odoi, he seems to have his hand up blaming everyone. But really, was he at fault for the first goal?
Yeah, I think he was responsible for most of the goals. And I think he was our worst performer on the night, sadly. I like Odoi, but he's not a Premier League quality defender. We saw that 2 years ago. And if anything, he's just got slower because he's got older. That's not his fault. But he wasn't good enough then, and he's definitely not good enough now. And I don't understand why, when Tete went off injured, which is obviously just bad luck, that we insisted on sticking with the three at the back that wasn't working. With it just seemed to me that we stuck with formation that wasn't working when we were being overrun in midfield, as Liam said. I think a five at the back with two midfield could work if we had someone like Harrison Reed in there who's actually breaking up the play. But I just feel like the lineup itself, with the players that we had available for the game, wasn't right. Kearney in a two-man midfield, it's been pointed out on Twitter, it does not work. Defensively, he's not capable. And to be honest, I don't think Anguissa, although he's much better defensively than Kearney, is capable of being the more defensive midfielder in the lineup. But it was just a culmination of so many errors, and it seemed like everything came to the boil at once. The fact that we haven't recruited well enough defensively in the window so far, the fact that we don't know what our best team is, the fact that Reed was injured or elsewhere, the fact that we don't have another defensive midfielder other than McDonald, the fact that we couldn't decide whether we wanted to play Ream or Odoi, and neither were good enough, so we just put them both in. And then it turns out that the best defender was actually Lamarchand when he came on. So it was just complete breakdown from the first minute to the last, and I think we were actually quite lucky that it ended 3-0.
Yeah, disastrous. I think so many times, even in the second half, Villa would put balls in the box and they'd go to the far post, and Villa players would still get on the end of it, and it looked like there was a decent opportunity there for 4-0. Liam, me and Joe, we spoke, after the Arsenal game, went, we don't have a centre back, but as long as we bring him in before Leeds, that's fine. Spoke after the Leeds game, don't have a centre back, but as long as we bring him into the Villa game, happy days. And we're still sitting here now with no centre back, with the Marlon deal collapsing because of, we'll get onto it in a second about what's happened there. Congolo apparently pulled up in his medical. What is going on? And the fact that we didn't get it sorted, albeit we had a small turnaround from Wembley to now, but that was the priority position. You cannot go into a Premier League season with two centre backs in Ream and Odoi who were rubbish and failed in the Premier League in 18-19. So in what world are they going to still be up to the job 2 years later, in the Premier League again, Liam?
It's absolutely criminal, to be honest. I can't believe we're actually in this situation. We're 3 years into Premier League, as you were saying, and we still have 2 survivors from that team who, like, the worst defensive team in terms of Fulham I've ever seen, with Ream and Adoy. Like, a couple of my non-Fulham mates texted me yesterday. They were like, "How is Adoy still playing your side?" And I was like, I genuinely don't know. Like, I have no idea. He's obviously, I love the bloke. He's done so much for the club, but he is nowhere near Premier League quality for a centre-back. And it is so criminal that we have not got someone in. And Michael Hector as well. I don't think it's been touched on enough. He is a shell of a man. I don't know what's happened to him over the summer, because he has completely gone off the boil. He was class for the second half of last season. Obviously, he had that bit of blip after lockdown, straight after. But now he looks awful. And there's no leader. There's no. It's 3 men who have no clue. Like, you saw after every single goal, they were looking around. They were looking for someone to blame. None of them taking responsibility. There's no leader in there. I mean, none of our defenders deserve any credit whatsoever. They were terrible yesterday, and they've been terrible all season. So, I mean, Tony's got to pull his finger out and get something done, because if we carry on like this, it's going to be a hell of a long season, and it's going to be awful for us watching.
Yeah, 3 games, 0 points, 10 goals conceded. West Brom conceded 11, but they got a point out of Chelsea. They were 3 up, albeit they didn't win the game, but they've got a point on the board. You say every defender was bad. I think maybe Kenny Tete deserves a bit of credit for his fantastic marauding runs forward, putting in some crosses towards Mitrovic.
Yeah, I feel like he's excellent. Most of our chances with Mitrovic this season have come through Tete with his balls in from the right. But there's another issue with that. I think that, like, we've been asking for more crosses into the box, but last night we just became Cross FC. Every single opportunity we had, we put the ball in the box. And I get that obviously that works, and like a lot we have Mitrovic, but it became so one-dimensional that their centre-backs knew exactly what was going to happen every time. Mings and Conte were literally on Mitrovic every single time, and there was no chance he was going to get any space in the box to get a header away. But obviously, it's gutting that Tete's gone off injured. I mean, do we then need to get another right back in? Because who's our backup now? Christie's gone. We're looking at Doy covering it right back, or
Ola Aina. He's still.
Ola Aina, of course. Yeah. Well, we haven't seen anything from him, so I'm not sure what his situation is with injury or anything. But I haven't heard. But yeah, it's criminal.
It's all up in the air. We could talk about the Mings goal, but it's just. I think it's one of the worst bits of defending you'll ever see. Playing the high line from that free kick and pushing up it, and then Mings gets in behind and pokes it home past Areola. Joe, let's talk about Areola actually quickly. You know, he's conceded a lot of goals now. He's conceded 7 in his 2 league games. Is it time for Marek to play against Brentford and maybe even Wolves?
Well, Rodak should definitely play against Brentford, no matter what. I'm torn on whether he should play against Wolves, purely because I don't know what good putting another goalie in there now would do. Then on the flip side of that, you had Rodak, who's obviously had quite a good relationship with Ream and Hector and Brian at the end of last season. So maybe it would do more harm than good. I guess only Scott Parker really knows. I mean, what's Areola? Areola must be thinking, he's come from PSG, he's played at Real Madrid. He must be thinking, what on earth is going on? Like, what are these defenders doing? He's not used to conceding goals. He doesn't play for teams that concede this many chances. But he hasn't covered himself in glory either. I think it's harsh to blame him for either the first or second goals yesterday. And I don't think he's at blame for the third either. But his positioning for the third, I thought, was terrible. Why has he come out towards the ball when the ball is dropping right to the floor, to the feet of Mings? Mings then has a much smaller target if he just stays on his line. Because if he stays on his line, Mings is going to toe poke it very slowly towards the goal, most likely. He could have either picked it up either side, or if it came straight at him. I don't know why he's come out and made it possible for it to go under him. And it's really disappointing because it seems like he's running low on confidence as well. He made a couple of saves yesterday, but nothing out of the ordinary. And it's just been a terrible start for him, not necessarily in terms of performance, but just the fact that in that Leeds game, he didn't have much of a chance with most of the goals, I don't think. I think it would be very harsh to blame him for any of the goals. And then yesterday, the first 2 minutes, he's got a one-on-one to deal with. Then 5-10 minutes later, whatever it was, Horan's free on the 6-yard box with the whole goal to aim at. I mean, I feel sorry for him that he's having to deal with it, but I don't know whether he should stay in against Wolves, because I don't feel a great deal of confidence in him, but I don't know whether that's to do with the defence that's playing in front of him. I don't know who could help with that defence in front of them.
a couple more things. I'll ask each of you another question before we move on to the wider issues. I'll start with Joe. Ivan Cavaleiro apparently lost the ball like 25 times last night. There was a chance where Grealish was under a bit of pressure and he cleared the ball right into the path of Cavaleiro. If Ivan gets his head up, he's got Joe Bryan who's sprinting alongside on the left-hand side. But of course, Ivan foot-champs Cavaleiro just wastes the chance and smashes it into Rose Z. I've never been more infuriated with a player after 3 games than Ivan foot-champs Cavaleiro. What have you got to say about the Portuguese man? Because this guy costs us a lot of money and he's not good at all.
Well, firstly, when we first signed him, I was really, really excited, and I was thinking, why is he dropping down to the Championship? Because I thought he was definitely good enough to play in the Premier League from what I'd seen when he played for Wolves in the Premier League and the start of the season that we both went up together. And then we signed him, and he really creates some moments of real quality in the Championship, goals out of nowhere. The one at Huddersfield sticks out, the late winner, when he had quite a poor game, and then he just puts one in the top corner, and that's 3 points down to him. Now we've gone up to the Premier League, it's obviously a lot harder for those moments of individual quality to come from the same sources because the quality of the defences we're coming up against has stepped up and our quality has remained the same. And now I sort of think, what does he offer the team? Because defensively, I don't think he's very good. And going forward, I don't think he's very good. And he's our winger. So I don't really know what to make of it. I don't think he was very effective against Arsenal, but I don't think anyone was. So I think that's you could sort of write that one off. But then Leeds, I thought he was our weakest attacking link. And he played the full 90, and I'm not sure how. And then against Villa, I think he was exactly the same yesterday. He was our weakest attacking link as well. And it sort of makes me think, what does he have to do to get subbed off? Like, we've got Knockout on the bench, who technically, it was rightly pointed out on Twitter today, is our most expensive signing of the summer so far, even though we got it done in July. And he hasn't played I don't think he's played a single minute of Premier League football so far this season. It makes me think, what has he got to do to get a chance? And it sounds like Lookman might be coming in. I don't know whether that's to replace Cavaleiro, whether it's to go on the other wing. But it just makes me think, if someone's being so ineffective and they're not getting subbed off, what does that say to the people that are on the bench?
Liam, before we move on to Tony Khan and everything, are you already, and I'm sure it's an obvious one, but is it worrying that we're already seeing parallels between 18-19 and 2020, 2021?
Yeah, it screams deja vu. I mean, everything that's happening is just a carbon copy. The reason why I think a lot of us are worried and a lot of us are writing ourselves off so early is because we've seen it before. The pundits seen it before. Carragher and Keane were talking last night about how it is just we look no different to the side that flopped so badly in 18-19, and it's just there doesn't seem any difference. Like, the mentality, yes, potentially is a little bit different. Obviously, Parker has got the ability to galvanise these players. We've seen it on occasions, for instance, the player final. But no, so far it's just been awful. And just to extend on the point about Cavaleiro, I thought he was dreadful last night. He's so predictable, just cutting in with his right foot. He either tries to swing a cross in or just smashing into Rosette. There's just nothing. There's no creativity that he brings. There's no link-up play. He was awful for me. But yeah, no, I agree. The parallels are there, and it's very, very worrying that we're seeing it all over again.
It's almost beyond belief what's happening right now. And I'm not expecting us. I wasn't expecting us to come into the season and fly off the blocks, but I was expecting at least something, especially last night. Let's go on to the big issue then, Tony Khan. I think personally, I've never really gone at him and gone at Tony Khan, get out the club, blah blah blah, like a lot of people do on Twitter. But I think last night was the final straw for me. The centre back situation is the one that's very, very annoying and very, very upsetting. You can come up with your excuses. You can blame COVID. You can blame the medicals, but you're leaving it down to the last minute. We had so much time to bring in before even the season started, and we haven't. And we're now being linked with the likes of Bennett and Dawson and Scott Dan. These players who are uninspiring for me, Liam. What do you make of it all? It's just a mess, isn't it?
I mean, Carragher summed it up last night perfectly. He's an absolute clown, mate. I mean, what are you doing? Like, why as the director of football of a football club, the Premier League football club, are you on Twitter biting at fans, like making up all these excuses? It was quite clear from after lockdown that obviously if we weren't going to get promoted automatically, which there was a slim chance we were we were going to be in the playoffs. There was a chance that we would be promoted. Surely then you have an action plan. They think, right, if we get promoted, we're not going to make the same mistakes we did last time. We're going to have these centre-backs lined up. We're ready to go. I mean, when Mawson went out alone, I thought, right, perfect. I mean, someone's lined up. Someone's coming through the door tomorrow, the day after. Absolutely nothing. And like the rumours have been so scattered. And obviously the Marlon deal was obviously unlucky that he's failed a medical. And there's only so many excuses that Tony can make. But it's ridiculous. It's his job to do that. Like every single person associated with our football club is aware that we need not just one, but probably two centre-backs. And the fact that we've come nowhere near signing one is poor. Is very, very poor.
It's mad. Joe, after Burnley away, I think it was in 18-19, Tony Khan told Sam Pym to go to hell. Now that should have been the end of Tony Khan commenting to fans on Twitter. But we're here 2 years later talking about very, very similar issues. That tweet to Sophie saying that he would kill to be a yo-yo club when he took over as director of football. How negative of a mindset is that from a club who were in the Premier League for 13 years?
So negative. And you've seen from Parker's press conference, came out maybe an hour or so ago, he's not happy with the comments he made either. It's unnecessary. It never ends well. It all ended tears. And it does way more harm than good. And I've made a list here because one comment he made really annoyed me when he was saying about how it's a really hard market. He did the video last week, and I appreciate that it is a hard market and that it is hard to buy centre-backs. But other teams have done it, and it is possible to do it. So Arsenal this window have signed 2, Brighton have signed 1, Chelsea have signed 2, Leeds have signed 2, Man City have signed 2, Sheffield United have signed 1, Southampton have signed 1, and West Brom, who came up, yes, maybe it was about 2 weeks before we did, but they've signed 2. And we need minimum 2, and we needed them more than anyone. So it makes me think, well, yes, it might save you a few quid. Yes, you might get a better deal at the end of the window. Well, you're not now. Who's going to want to join now? Who's going to want to join the defence that is on track to be one of the worst ever? A team that's lost 3 on the bounce and is now dead cert for relegation. I still think we'll get people in because I almost think, how can we not get people in at this rate? Like, everyone can see it. But I feel that Parker's been thrown under the bus. And I do still think that our recruitment this window, in terms of the players that we have got in, has been good. I'm happy with the players that we brought in. I still think we need way more. But me and Jack, you said it yourself earlier, we said it before the Arsenal game. It had already been over a month since Wembley, since the start of the Arsenal game. Then we had another week to Leeds, and now we've had another week and 2 days to Aston Villa. And now we're looking at going up against Jimenez with Tim Ream, Dennis Odoi, Michael Hector. No disrespect to any of them. I'm sure they're all lovely people and they've done great things in the Championship, but they're not a Premier League quality defence. And at the moment, we're a laughing stock. And things like tweeting about, this player had COVID, obviously that's very unfortunate. I don't think it needs to come public. I think instead of tweeting, you need to be on your phone looking for deals, because everyone wants the best for this club. I just think this is doing way more harm than good. Yeah,
really well said. Liam, Jamie Carragher last night on MNF, Monday Night Football, said he's more certain of Fulham getting relegated than Liverpool winning the league. Now, Liverpool have started fantastically, 3 wins from 3, beating the likes of Leeds, Chelsea and Arsenal. This is not good. I think the thing that annoys me the most about this whole thing is that everyone's laughing at us again. Yeah. No one can take us seriously. So if we go down and then come back up, everyone's going to be like, well, what are Fulham doing here again? They're not going to do anything. And if we don't do anything this season, mate, we're just a joke. We're just a joke at the moment, Liam.
I said it to you last night. I think I texted you last night. I said the worst thing about all of this is that this is happening again. This is the representation that we give to the wider footballing world. Like, obviously, a lot of people don't watch the Championship. They don't know what's going on. Like, they don't know that, like, the fact that we were decent last year and the season before we got promoted, we were fantastic. But like, all my mates, they're just like, you are a waste of space in the Premier League. Same over again. And I hate that our club is being portrayed like that in the Premier League on the biggest stage. Like, we love this club so much, all of us. We all care so much. And it's just the fact that this is happening yet again. Like, obviously, yes, we're 3 games in, but Jamie Carragher summed it up, and to be fair, I agree with him. I can't see at the moment, with the squad we have and the mentality that's currently around the club, how are we going to get out of this? Like, are there 3 teams worse than us? No. At the moment, no. So it's just so disappointing, and like the fact we're to put up with this all again, and it's just, again, I'll say it again, but it is deja vu. And all the feelings that we had from that season, just the low feelings, the soul-destroying performances we saw, it feels like it's all happening all over again, and it's horrible. It really is.
It's yeah. I mean, I just keep saying how unbelievable the whole situation is. Joe, we've got a game on Thursday against Brentford. If we lose that, I don't know where we go from here. I think that will just be the most toxic thing I'll ever see on social media. If we win it, it would be great, and I could have a nice laugh about it. But in all seriousness, the next 4 Premier League games are Wolves away, Sheffield United away, and then we host both Crystal Palace and West Brom. Has to be points, surely. Has to.
Yeah, the Brentford game's a bit weird. I think a cup game's going to come at the right time, but it's a shame that it's Brentford because you can't even write it off as like a meaningless game. I mean, personally, I don't know about you guys, I don't care too much about the League Cup. I'd like to go on a run, but if we get knocked out on Thursday, to me, it won't be the end of the world. I care far more about the league. That being said, I don't want us to lose on Thursday, obviously. But yeah, like you said, the next few games, I mean, especially after the international break, after deadline day, so that's 2 weeks for players to bed in after we inevitably sign them at 11 p.m. on deadline day rather than before the Wolves game. We've got Sheffield United, who one of the other teams that have lost all their games so far. Really important game, really important to pick something up. Then, like you say, we've got West Brom and Palace at home. But those are 3 games in a row. I mean, Wolves even, like the other night. I mean, it's been a crazy season so far. They got absolutely hammered, no pun intended, by West Ham. And they looked awful as well. The problem is that I look at the 2 squads on paper and I think we're going to have to play exceptionally to get anything from that game. And I got one more thing to say about this Tony Khan tweet last night. And I'm never going to be one of these people that's like, oh, I hate Tony Khan, or I hate this, or I hate that, because I just want everyone to get on and do the best and get the players in and stuff like that. I don't like the negativity, but the thing I hated the most was when he said in his tweet, immediately after the game, I apologise for the performance. We're trying to get centre-backs in. Immediately, imagine one of the centre-backs reading that. Imagine being Dennis Adoy, and yes, you've had a terrible game. You just want to go on your phone, and you see the director of football saying, really sorry, Dennis Adoy basically shouldn't have been playing, but we couldn't get anyone in time. When he knows that he's probably now going to play on Thursday and Sunday. I mean, he just needed to stay off social media. It's one of those things, like, as fans, like me included, I tweeted a few things last night. I'm not embarrassed of any of them. I'd read them out now. I haven't said anything wrong, but we tweet angrily after the game more so than we would on another day. As a director of football, I think you just have to stay off social media.
Yeah, I just touched on the go to hell earlier, and he hasn't learned his lessons, and he's just making things worse. He's digging a deeper hole for himself. Yeah, I mean, I tweeted last night that I felt like a broken man. I don't think I've felt that low after a game since Huddersfield away in the Premier League season, where we travelled all that way up on a Monday night, lost to an own goal, created next to nothing, and got back at 4 a.m. in the morning with uni at 7 a.m. We had to get up for uni 7 a.m. I opted not to go in because I couldn't face it. And yeah, this morning I was on the verge of tears. Like, honestly, I don't want to sound like dramatic, but it's just the whole deja vu situation. Like Liam said, it feels like I'm living in the world that we were living in 2 years ago. Take away coronavirus, everything in a footballing context, in a Premier League context. Fulham in the Premier League is not a nice recipe. Liam, sorry, I rambled there. My next question was, where do we go from here? I mean, we've got the games coming up. We've got the transfer window still needs to close. Where do Fulham go from here to grasp back some credibility?
It's the impossible question at this stage. You can't really see further than the next couple of weeks. But the thing, I think it is so important that we do galvanise, and Scott really needs to have a word with these players. And just, like, no matter who we get in, like the players on deadline day who are in our squad, we need to all be like, right, we're up for a bloody fight here, because we have got a lot of games coming up which are winnable games. We have got no top 6. I think it's till December. I'm not sure who our first top 6 game is against, but we've got a number of games now. We look at the Sheffield United at home, we're playing West Brom, we're playing Crystal Palace, we're playing sides who are sort of lower top 10 teams. We need to really get some points out of this, because this could get horribly messy if we don't pull ourselves together soon. I look at players like Mitrovic, I look at players like Kenny, I look at players that have been at this club for a while. They need to get the new boys involved, get everyone going, and just try and come up with something. And just because these players, they're not bad footballers. Mitrovic is arguably the best striker in the lower half of the table. I think, like Tom, for me last night, I thought Tom was much improved on recent performances. I thought he looked a lot better on the ball. We haven't got Anguissa's a quality player. We haven't got awful players. Like, we've got enough here to do something, but the whole mentality needs to change. And Scott, I think, needs to really, really galvanise these boys and get them delivering something on the pitch.
That's one thing we haven't talked about, and that's Scott Parker. It seemed as though last night, barring maybe a few people, no blame can be led at Scott Parker's door right now. You saw the images of him walking off at half-time. He genuinely looked like he was like talking to himself, angry. And I was thinking he was probably saying like, fucking hell, why is Tony like throwing me completely under the bus here? I'm looking like a laughingstock on TV. But this guy is a classy guy. He dresses well. He comes across brilliant. He's the nicest guy in football. And he's been made to look like a joke on national TV. Liam, I'll start with you. What Scott Parker, do you feel sorry for him? I mean, surely you do.
I saw a tweet last night. I just said, sorry, Scott. And it was the images of him walking for half-time. And it was just like, what can he do? He's been dealt an awful hand. Like, I think last week after the Leeds game, he was on the phone reportedly to someone at the club, Tony Conn or something like that. But no, it's just you can't expect him to do anything. Like, he's been given a horrible hand with the defence. He can't get the team organised. There's no. I do disagree with the five at the back. I think that was a wrong tactical ploy. But you know what? Like, at this stage, what can you do? Like, he's trying to add more solidity, try and protect us. And because if we can see 3 goals every week, you're never going to do anything, are you? Like, you can't expect our strikers and attackers to score 3-4 goals every week. It's mental. But no, him walking for half time, I think, was pretty much summed up how we were all feeling at half time. I went off to the shops to get some beers, and literally I was head down, literally exactly the same expression that he was giving. It's awful. I feel so sorry for him. He's like a club legend. You saw his interview after the playoff final. You see how much he cares. He cares so much about this club. He cares so much about how we're doing. And I feel awful for him. I feel really, really bad.
I honestly love him. I honestly do. I think he's a nice guy. I think he means so well. Joe, I'm going to ask you something before we wrap up. No one's really come up with this theory, but I was thinking about it this morning. Do you think the reason he's gone 5 at the back and played 3 centre-backs and then brought on Le Marchand is to show Tony that our centre-backs are not good enough and that he needs new centre-backs? By displaying that, okay, fair enough, we lost the game in bad fashion, but by displaying the fact that Adoy and Ream and Hector as a 3 and as our centre-backs are not good enough at this level.
That's interesting, actually. I hadn't really thought of that. I'm not sure if the initial 5 at the back was, but I definitely think the substitution bringing the Marchand on for Hector is sending a message to both Hector and to the board saying even our best centre-back last season currently is nowhere near good enough. And a player that wasn't even good enough to start for us in the Championship is coming on and doing fine. He's doing fine compared to him. There doesn't look like a difference. The Marchand came on and did fine. I mean, Villa didn't need to go forward at that stage, really. Like, the game was already won. But the 5 at the back is a weird thing, because when I saw the team, I initially thought, okay, it's a bit different. I appreciate that he's trying something new, because he's tried 4 at the back and we conceded 3 and then 4. I think the 5 at the back, like I said earlier, would work if we had defensive midfielder in front of it, but we didn't. So it was almost like the 5 were just sort of there in a line, like lambs to the slaughter, like Villa just piling through. And we have to remember, with no disrespect to Villa, who I actually thought played very well, Villa are nothing special. They are not even a top 10 team. And if they are walking through us like that, then I'm very concerned. Because Wolves, they looked shocking the other night. I think that's even more worried about, because they're going to get an absolute pelting from Nuno after the game and be really up for the next one. I just worry about when we face better teams. But hopefully, in answer to your question to Liam earlier, Jack, about where do we go from here, I think regardless of new signings, for the Wolves game, we need to hope that Harrison Reed is back, and we need to play him in midfield. Who he replaces is another thing, because with Kearney, I guess you lose a bit of creativity. With Anguissa, you lose the class in the middle of the pitch, the player that's a little bit more special than everyone else we've got. We've also got to hope that Tete's back, because I think he's our best defender at the moment. Purely at the moment, I mean, none of them seem to be good defenders, purely because he actually offers something at either end of the pitch, and it seems to be going forward. It's a really tough day as a Fulham fan, because you're sort of thinking it is over. And it's weird to think that 3 games in. And I actually disagree with it. I don't think it is over. We are just 3 games in. It's over if we don't make the necessary signings. And that's what I'm worried about, because I don't know now who we can attract that is going to be good enough to make us that defensively solid team. I'm sure we can find defenders that will improve us, but will they improve us enough to be able to play the way we play? We can't suddenly go to be a park the bus football team like a lot of teams at the lower end of the table are, because we don't have the players that are good enough to do that. If we tried to defend our own box for the whole game, I think we'd concede way more than 3. Because you see what happens when they enter the box 3 times, they score 3 goals. Imagine if they entered it 20 times. So it's really difficult, because we've got to find ball-playing centre-backs that can also defend. And the priority should be how good they are at defending. But we know for the way they play, that's not all we're looking at. And so it just worries me. I think we will sign players, but I just don't know if the players now can be good enough. It does seem like Lookman's coming in, which is a completely different position. And we do need more creativity going forward, so hopefully he does well. He was a really bright talent at Charlton and Everton, and he seems to go off the boil a bit at Leipzig, just didn't really get a look in. So I am optimistic that he can improve us going forward. It's just, like you said, it's deja vu. It's just, I want us to be that team that is hard to break down, that is hard to beat. I felt we were that a lot of times last year. I know the Premier League's a step up, but I just thought that we would cope with it better and we'd be able to hold our own. And it's just really, really soul-destroying that teams like Aston Villa, and again, if any Aston Villa fans are watching this, I'm not sure why you would be, go and celebrate your brilliant win, your brilliant start to the season. I mean no disrespect to them when I say that we're going to be facing 10 or 12, maybe 15 teams that are far better than Aston Villa this season. We may have already faced 2 of them in Leeds and Arsenal. I just hope that it doesn't get worse than this. I hope that this is the point now that is our Huddersfield away moment, when the next game we come into it. Yes, we lost against Liverpool in the next game, but regardless of that, we looked so much better defensively against Liverpool. That Liverpool team is a very, very good team. And it seemed like they spent the week doing defensive drills and sorting out so there was at least a structure. I just hope that we can see that against Wolves, because I don't think any Fulham fan is expecting to go into it and walk away with 3 points. But to go there and put in a respectable performance, to not be a laughing stock, to show that we're not going down without a fight, as it seemed yesterday, is something that I think would mean a lot to everyone.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head, honestly. Liam, is there any final thoughts from you? Because I'm sure there's maybe plenty more things you might want to get off your chest.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think I've said everything in terms of yesterday's game. I don't really want to go into any more because it would just make me even more miserable than I already am. But in terms of one positive that I can see is that this has happened now. 3 games into the season, everyone at the club is fully aware that this is what's happening and this is what we need to sort out and how we need to proceed. And I think the fact that obviously like last time we sleepwalked a lot of the first half of the season, we were like, okay, potentially it's going to come good at some point. We didn't really know. We were sort of building. We hadn't experienced Premier League for a couple of years. We weren't sure. But now we are fully aware what's going to happen and that we need to sort our lives out basically and get the players in, sort of structure, get a team. I think it's important for Scott to get a starting 11. I think a lot of the season last time in the Premier League, we flip-flopped around with different teams and different selections, like different keepers. I think we need to solidify our team and just try and get that team to gel, and then we can pick up points here and there and try and do everything we can and fight all the way to the last day of the season, because that's the only way we are going to stay up, is if we put in a hell of a fight.
Yep, we're only 3 points behind Manchester City. What's City playing about? This has almost been like a podcast. I'm not sure what Sammy's going to think of this, but look, I think it is important that, you know, the podcast can react last night and how, but I think it's important on the YouTube side of things, we get to have our say, have our reaction. Like I said, if I'd have done a match reaction full time last night, I think I probably would have broke down into tears because I was really that upset and just, I was ready to let loose basically. But I think to give it some time and to sleep on it and to have a rational view on things. Yes, we've been annoyed today and spoken our minds, but it's good to have like a rational view on things because, I mean, I said it last time in the Premier League, there is no point shouting and swearing because it changes nothing. It just wastes your own energy. Joe, have you got any final thoughts?
No, I think I've said everything I want to say, really. I just, I'm concerned. I don't quite agree with some of the things I'm seeing, as I said earlier, where it's like, that's it, we are down, because I don't think we are. But I do think this next week now will determine whether we do go down. This week up to deadline day, I do think that we can recruit players that will keep us up. But it's just whether we can now do that. I mean, this Wolves game is not the ideal game. I'm just sort of discarding the Brentford Cup game, as I imagine we'll play a slightly rotated team anyway. But this Wolves game is not the ideal next game, because we're going to be tested massively defensively. I'm not sure we're ready for another massive defensive test after we failed the first three. But then we've got an international break, and I think that international break is massive to bed in the players that will inevitably come in, I hope. Got 2 weeks before a massive 3 games, and that run up till Christmas before December, when you rightfully said, Liam, that we don't play another top 6 team. That is a massive chance to get points on the board, because we're not massively behind yet. No one is. We're only 3 games in, but the worry is that we didn't look good enough to fight back if we were left adrift. We don't look good enough to take the teams off points that will be around us. So I think that's the worry, and that's why everyone's a bit down today, because of the opposition it came against. Is a team that, when the fixtures first came out, we were thinking would be down there with us. They look like a golfing class in terms of finishing and defensively. Because on the ball, I think we're a great side. Like, we move the ball well. It's just we're struggling with the 2 main things in football, which is defending and actually putting the ball in the net, which is obviously not going to bode well when you're a football team. So, yeah, I think it's been a worrying few days in terms of transfers falling through and the defeat last night. But I'm hoping that is it. That is rock bottom. It's come earlier than it did in the last Premier League season, where it came at Huddersfield in November. And hopefully that we can push on from here and just improve.
Yep. Yeah. It could be the best thing that happens to us this season. It's the kick up the backside we need to actually kickstart the season. Jamie Carragher last night said Fulham made Aston Villa look like Bayern Munich. I mean, that's all you need to know, really. Let's finish it there. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's been a difficult one, but I think it needs to happen. I think we need to get our voices out there, and we are the fans of the club, and it's important we have our say. Liam.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, just let's try and. I know it's hard, but obviously the toxicity in the fan base isn't going to help anything as well. I think, like, now this has happened, we're at rock bottom. Everyone's written us off. We can only go and prove people wrong now. Let's try and do something this season.
Yep. I'd love nothing more than to prove everyone wrong and stay up and at least get over 26 points, let alone 11. Joe, thank you very much for being here today.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully 1 week today, it's all forgotten and we're talking about a 1-0 shithouse win at Wolves anyway.
I had a vision this morning that we'd actually do a little bit of a shithouse at Wolves, but maybe that's just me being overly optimistic. Well, 1 week left of the window of the European window, and then it goes into the domestic stuff, nonsense. I'm sure there'll be a couple of deals maybe flying around there. Thank you very much for watching. It's been a tough one. It's almost been like a podcast, but I think it was necessary, and I feel a lot better for it. Although I'm going on TalkSport 2 in an hour, and that will be a revisit of this whole situation. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you for a Brentford reaction, hopefully. Oh my God, please beat Brentford. Otherwise, it's going to be a nightmare in the comments. Please like, subscribe. We're nearly at 3K. We need about 10 subscribers for 3K. Let's get us there before the weekend. We'll see you for Brentford at home.